So here's what's on my mind, and it really is amusing. I mean, it's a musing. I haven't come to any conclusions about this, but one of the things that can happen when you're talking about, in this program, when I talk about people pleasing, is like there's a lot of talk about stop self-justifying, replace that with self-expression. So there's a lot of talk about self. And I realize, increasing in the spiritual journey, the great mystics all come to a place of no self. It's like happiness is found in no self. So it's like in the course of our life journey, there's these, it's like a wave particle thing in physics, right? Self, no self, self, no self, self, no self. But often when we're in the self appearance, the self expression, it's an experience of alienation, because if we're experiencing ourself, it's often ourself as distinct from the world out there. So we're over here experiencing the world happening over there, and it is a kind of existential alienation built into that affirmation of self. Versus, in the whole Eastern world, at least, and to some extent in Judeo-Christian mystical literature and accounts of another state of being, it's the no self, the merging with all, that is a tremendous liberation. So how do we make sense of this? And maybe we can just say that that's what's life: self, no self, self, no self. But if there's too much self, we're going to be in a state of alienation, and there's a lot of suffering in that. But on the other hand, if you're constantly in no self, what good are you in the world? It's like, like there's a lost identity, and to some extent we need an identity to proceed in the world. So I'm curious about this. So I'm just sharing my curiosity with you. And by no self, it's the experience of, I've talked about this before. The experiencer disappears into the experience. The observer disappears into what is observed. The athlete disappears into the game. So Wayne Gretzky can say something: don't go where the puck is. He's a great hockey player. Don't go where the puck is. Go where the puck is going. So at that moment, he's operating not from intellect, he's totally in the flow. He's in the intelligence of the cosmos, or the intelligence of, even you could say, divine intelligence, where there's no self, in a sense. There's only the game. There's motion, there's emergence, there's flow. And I think one of the challenges for athletes is that when their careers end, and I experienced this to some extent, I had nothing to replace that experience of no self, of just the game, just being in the experience. I was lost in it. I was lost in it. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying here? So it doesn't have to be athletics. It can be anything. It can be, doodling.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, whatever it is, being in a forest and just losing yourself in the forest, and the realization of the radical interconnectedness, that you are one expression of the totality of being, but you're completely aligned with all that is, and an expression of all that is. So here's my thinking about this, because that self, which is no self, the paradox, is not a discrete entity that you carry with you through life and you bring to every experience. That self is always a discovery, an emergence. The conditions change, you respond, you adapt, you respond to it, not with intellect so much, although intellect, nothing wrong with intellect, but with this deep intelligence of a being that is the localized presence of the big intelligence. And you're just flowing. So there's no discrete, unchanging self that you bring to every experience in that experience of no self, which is the mystical, as I say, the mystical experience. And I think so when I refer to self-expression, like letting go of self-justification, trading self-justification in for self-expression. The self I realize that I'm talking about, this is a discovery for me. So this is happening in real time as I speak. That self is actually the ego that's trapped in time. The ego that's trapped in time is the unchanging, discrete self, is the survival self, is the false self. and the sense of there being that discrete, unchanging self that we bring to every experience is the self that's alienated from the all, from the realization that I am that in this form. I am all in this form. And it's set up by a nervous system that gets locked into survival, that is frightened, that is sure. And obviously, if we live with fear, then we experience that state of alienation, where it's me over here against the world, against effectively a hostile world, because that nervous self, the self of the nervous system, the self-justifying self, the self that doesn't believe it's legitimate, always experiences reality as the enemy, as it gets out to get them in one way or another, whether it's a parent, a husband, wife, a friend, the boss at work. It's like it's always on the lookout for the next attack, for the next experience that will reassure it that it's not worthy, that it has no dignity, and so it's set up to fight. So my musing here is that when I'm using terms like self-justification, I'm referring to that self, the egoic, false, survival, people-pleasing self in this context. But I will also talk about another self, but I realize that when I'm talking about that self, I'm talking about the no self. The heart self is the no self, if you like, because it's there is a kind of sense of identity, but it's an identity that is permeable to the truth that there's no separation anywhere. And if we're experiencing separation, then we're in the nervous system. We're in the egoic self. So that there is a sense of identity, but it's a fluid identity in this self, heart self, no self. And I just bring that as a distinction that I think is important from a spiritual point of view, because for me, anyways, at this point in my life, I'm not just dealing with psychology, as critical as that is. It's a psycho-spiritual kind of frame that I realize has been given to me, an emotional psycho-spiritual frame. But the larger spiritual identity is based in the mystic realization that we are the presence localized of the big thing that's living us, however you understand that. And when we're in that identity, when that stabilizes, we are in a flow. We've given up the illusion that the world is against us. We're living from a sense of felt connection with all that is, that we are earth in human form. We are the whole evolving cosmos that's expressed itself in, through, and as us. And when we're in that place, that's what I call the heart self or the no self, as distinct from this other self that psychology basically is committed to, that there is and psychological research, et cetera, because they're philosophically materialists, most psychologists, I think, is committed to there being this unchanging self that we bring to every experience. But it explains the paradox that when we're most identified with that self, we suffer the most. The more we consolidate that self, the less happy we are. Because, there's no flow. And basically that self is a memory of the past. There is no true creativity possible. It's a reenactment, not an emergence. It's a reenactment of the past. So that self is always a memory, where the heart self, the no self, the emergent, merged self can participate in the larger intelligence because it's in the present. It's not in the past, it's not in the future. It's just like, okay, what's being evoked now and now and now? And how do I learn to trust that evocation of this self, no self expression, what that me wants to do, that I wants to do in this moment? Okay, I'll stop there. I've had my fun for the morning.